Chair.
Yes.
So, listening to the conversation here, it's quite obvious that what we have is not in proper procedure in the ordinance itself, because we don't have a written form stipulating what's what on the complaint. Now, this goes back to my original statement. I don't think it's read yet. It was based on one individual's input. We need to send this back to the full committee and have it rewritten in completion.
Is there any further discussion? Councilwoman Bliss.
One, I will say, my interpretation of proper form, and you read it, written statement, I mean, it can't be an anonymous, it has to be personal knowledge, not I saw it on Facebook. To me, that specifies what proper form is. I think it's already in there. But I'm not in disagreement with doing it form and DPD.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. Motion by Councilwoman Witten, supported by Councilman Johnson, which is a motion to approve the second reading of the amendment of Chapter 2, Administration, Article 3, Division 3, Standards of Conduct of said code, also known as Taylor's Ethics Ordinance, originally approved August 7, 2007, striking Section 2-131, Board of Ethics, sub-item C, sub-item 2, the last sentence stating no member of the board shall serve more than one term or portion of a term consecutively. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed say no.
No.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Remick?
No.
Mr. Slavin?
No.
Ms. Rose?
No.
Mrs. Branduna? No. Mrs. Clinton?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Geis?
Yes. Motion fails 4-3. Item 7.2 on the agenda is a motion to approve the second reading to amend Chapter 22, Fire Protection and Prevention, Article 2, Fire Code of the Code of Ordinances, City of Taylor, to remove and replace the sections that adopt and reference the 2015 International Fire Code and replace them with and adopt the NFPA 1 Fire Code 2021 edition.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Councilman Slavin, supported by Councilwoman Brandana. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed say no. The yeses have it, motion carried. Item 7.3 is a motion to approve opening the public hearing of the 2022-2023 City of Taylor proposed budget. Motion.
Support.
Motion by Councilman Remick, supported by Councilman Slavin. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed say no. The yeses have it, motion carried. The public hearing is now open. Is there any member of the public that would like to come forward and address the proposed city budget for the 2022-2023 year? Please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Nick Metrogino, 9618 Camden Circle. On page 2 of the proposed budget, there's an expenditure for $10,913,500 for the police and pension fund. And on page 3, there is expected tax revenues of $10,823,111. It appears we've already crossed the Rubicon where the entire tax revenue of the city is being expended on one fund. There was an article yesterday in the Wall Street Journal. Goldman Sachs is expecting about a 35% chance that we're going to enter a long-term recession. Therefore, that could reduce the tax rolls even more. What's the plan moving forward if that does happen, when we've got one fund eating up the entire tax revenue of the city?
The police and fire pension is funded by a special millage rate that would go directly onto the one point in time had a determination if they would pay unfunded pension liabilities out of the general fund or place those as a special line item within the tax rolls. And the city of Taylor, at that point in time, established that any unfunded liability would be placed directly on the tax rolls.
So we're paying the unfunded liability out of the tax rolls, not the actual pension fund. The unfunded liabilities we paid from tax revenue, the pension, current police and pension fund would be paid from a separate village.
It is, so if out of the general fund, we could not, at this point in time, we cannot fully fund out of the general fund. The goal at one point in time, there were general funds that went into the pension fund, and there was no unfunded liability. Over the years, the accounting methods have changed, actuarial tables, but at this point in time, it is unfunded. It is not supportable by the general fund. Therefore, there is a special millage placed upon the tax rolls and can be viewed on your tax bill.
So taxpayers are double dipping. They're paying taxes on one thing and they're paying an additional tax to fund the current liability. Is that correct?
It's certainly not double dipping.
They're being taxed twice for one
I'm
fund.
sorry, sir.
Yes.
I'm going to enforce the rules equally for whomever. I understand that you have additional questions, but I'm going to ask if there are any other members of the audience before continuing to recognize you. Please come forward. I'm sorry, if there's a comment from the council.
Yeah, can we get our chief financial officer up here to talk about it, explain it a little bit better?
Yes, through the chair, I can address the comments, if I may. So the budget document, what the resident was mentioning, on page 2, the police and fire fund of 10.9 million. And then he referenced page 3, where you see tax revenue of 10.8 million. So the police and fire retirement fund is a separate millage from the general fund. Page 3 is just the general operating millage that is used to help fund the general fund expenditures. So it is a different fund. On page 8 of the budget document is the police and fire retirement fund, and in there you will see a tax revenue of approximately 10.8 million. That's the amount that is actually referenced to page 1 and 10.9 million. To clarify the millages, so the 345 millage, which is the police and fire retirement fund, that is used to offset the current year retiree health care, pay-as-you-go, and also the annual required contribution that the city has to make to the police and fire pension fund. That annual contribution is calculated by an actuary, and it's something that legally we have to pay every year in accordance with the state legislation. So that is what the Act 345 millage is based on, is the current year required contribution to the police and fire pension fund, and also the police and fire retiree costs. And again, that millage is in addition to the operating millage, which is also around the same amount, but that is what goes on page 3 for general fund tax